Hello CIS25. In this video I'm going to talk about other mobile devices such as tablets and smartphones. And so tablets can be used similarly to a laptop, however the features are going to be different. And so what you would have is you would have iOS, Android, Windows 10, mobile, and Chrome OS. Now, in comparison with the laptop features, on page 25 give you various features for the laptop. At the top of your keyboard, you would have these function keys, and function keys are used to control different things on the laptop, such as brightness, volumes, sound, etc. So you would find information about function key on page 25. On the newer MacBook Pro models, you would see that the touch bar would then be replaced, the physical function key. And so some of the function key can be used for something like dual display, wireless turning on and off, volume control, Bluetooth, etc. So in your questions ask you to identify some of the laptop function keys for number 14. You can include any of those, such as volume settings, Bluetooth, dual display, airplane mode, etc. And the following part, it goes into docking stations. So all businesses would use docking station. It allows the user to synchronize their data, charge their devices. It also allows the business to control the systems physically. So here on page 25 and 26 gives you information about the docking station. A docking station or the device itself would have input and output ports. Some would have like HDMI, other would have Ethernet connectivity, and USB for charging and transferring data. Now for the Apple systems, the docking stations are slightly different as it uses different type of ports. On the older system, you would see the docking connection on the bottom of the actual laptop, and you would glide the battery to the side, so that would allow the battery to charge as you place the laptop on top of the docking station. On the newer docking station, this is the image shown on page 26, you would find that there will be ports. It looks like a device, but you simply use these connections to connect to the company's network, transfer data, charge your system, and so on. So for the next few questions, for number 15, it asks you, why do companies use docking station for laptop? What are the features for the docking station? It's used for charging system, for connectivity, such as network connection, for encryption, for authentication, and so on. For question 16, it asks you, how do you prevent data theft using mobile system docking station? We can use password lock function on the operating system to require password whenever the keyboard is locked. Now there are also features for remote encryption of the hard drive or storage, and also you can have syncing data to the network or the server on the cloud. So in the other mobile devices, that would include smartphones, that could be iOS or Android. That could also be wearable technology like Fitbit, And it's important for these to be updated with firmware for security reasons, and also controlling the device power and app usage. We also would see e-readers under the other mobile devices. So as a technician, you might be able to troubleshoot other type of devices, including mobile devices. Some devices would have GPS capability, or it could just be a GPS device. Now the ports and the connection on these devices, some are wired and mostly are wireless. So for the USB, we would see different type of USB along with the lightning cable and an older power sync cable for iOS or Apple device. And this is what will be needed for your lab, so I will go over that in the lab today. Lightning cable for iOS, that's used for data transfer and also for charging purposes. You would have 8-pin that's reversible. It's used for iPhones, iPads, iPods, and other mobile devices that are Apple. Some of the newer devices would use USB Type-C. And a wireless device could also use NFC, and NFC stands for Near Field Communication. This is allowing you to connect the mobile device to other systems. So for example, you can connect your smartphone with your TV using NFC. And a lot of times you will find this feature in Android or iOS. Bluetooth can also be considered wireless, and Bluetooth is shorter range than your 802.11 for Wi-Fi. It is low-speed wireless network technology, and it's mainly designed for peer-to-peer. IR or infrared can be used, and it's designed for remote control such as TV, theater systems, and so on. The accessories that you can include with your mobile devices would be headsets, speakers, gamepads, extra battery, protective covers, credit card reader, micro SD or memory. Now, on page 32 and later, you would see there are instructions on how to configure your mobile devices and to look at the MAC address for hotspot, looking at the adapters. And so the MAC address is the physical address of the system, or sometimes that's known as the UID of the system, unique identification for the system. And the IP address is used to connect to the network. It would identify the address of that system as part of the network. And that would pertain to the wireless adapter, or the network interface card for that system. So with the interface, we can configure Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, modes, notification, and sound. And it could be varied to the version of the OS, the Android or the iOS. So here it walks you through some of the steps. And keep in mind that CompTIA will ask you about mobile devices and its configuration and components. So make sure that you're familiar with how to configure the mobile devices. For email configuration, email would be pertaining to different protocol. So Post Office Protocol 3 or POP3 would be used for your typical webmail. And so we can select POP3 if you're configuring like Gmail or Yahoo Mail, or so web-based mail, you would see that it would use POP3. And POP3, with the configuration for POP3, would need to be able to identify the server name. Now, in the case where if they're using Simple Mail Transfer Protocol, your SMTP, then you would need to configure the security settings, the port number for SMTP in some cases. So on the iOS devices, it gives you the step on how to configure mail and contact. And then for IMAP and the Exchange server is located on page 41. After that, we would find the information on PIR and PRL. So PRL is the preferred roaming list, and this pertains to the service provider connection, such as T-Mobile, Verizon, AT&T, and so on. PIR stands for Primary Rate Interface, and that's used to control the speed of the data that's sent from the mobile device to the cell tower. And we know that now service provider charge data size for your service package. So PIR controls the speed of the data, whereas PRL control how that mobile device is connected to the network or the cellular network for data. So for the next question, question 17, it asks you the difference between PRI and PLR. PRL is the roaming cellular networks, and PRI is the control data for the mobile device. And it's important that we also update firmware, especially radio firmware. Updates the firmware on the radio is going to give you the reliability in that system. And overall updating firmware on your device is going to give you better security. There are two standards for national with your cellular phone or your smartphones. There is IMEI, which is International Mobile Equipment Identity. That is a unique number that's given to the cell phone that identify that cell phone to a certain type of network like GSM, UMTS, LTE. And not all networks are the same. Verizon compared to AT&T or T-Mobile, they're different networks. And the MEID numbers can be used for CDMA networks like Sprint, Verizon, US Cellular. So the IMEI, that will be used for the largest GSM network nationally. If you have a mobile phone that's able to work international, that would use IMSI, which is International Mobile Subscriber Identity. That identity is tied to the SIM card, and that SIM card is for the larger network across the world. So the information for number 18, 19, you will be able to find that after the radio firmware on page 41, and going into page 42, you will find information on the cellular networks. The last part of the note goes over virtual private network, which is VPN, and VPN is widely used, especially now that we're working remotely from home. It requires connection to the remote site, and that connection is then encrypted, so it will protect the session or the communication, the data that's being exchanged during that session. So to use the VPN, all the OS on the mobile device would have the setting capability. So for the iOS, you would go to Settings, General VPN, and you would add the VPN connection. Whereas on the Android, you would also be able to find that in its setting along with the Windows mobile device, such as the Surface. This concludes my video for the first chapter. Make sure that you complete your assignment and submit that in Canvas for credit. And all the answers that you need can be found in your notes and in your chapter. Thank you for watching this video.